Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Mobile App for Administrators. I'm Samantha, I'm the Director of Education. I'm going to go ahead and get us started here with just a little bit of housekeeping. So all of your phones and microphones are currently muted. If you have any questions about the topic or anything that we're discussing in today's webinar, you can enter those questions in the chat. Devin will be taking care of the chat questions, so you don't have to wait until the end. We will have time for Q&A. But if you have questions during the session, again, you can enter those into the chat. And if you're interested in any of our upcoming webinars or seeing what we have on the schedule, you can always go to our calendar, clubexpress.com/calendar, or by just going to our website and clicking on the calendar item in our menu, you can see all of our upcoming free webinars where we dive deep into specific topics, modules, and features. And of course, if you sign up for it in advance, you have the opportunity to submit questions that you'd like to see us demonstrate live. And in addition to all of our webinars, we also have an archive of our webinars, as well as a growing library of video tutorials. So if you navigate to any one of our videos, you can hit that subscribe button, or you can search YouTube for clubexpress.com. That's with the .com spelled out. And you can subscribe. It's not just so we get more subscribers, so you get notified whenever we post a new video or tutorial to our channel. And finally, if you are an existing ClubExpress customer and you have thoughts on us, we would love to hear them. So if you go to clubexpress.com/reviews, you can click on any one of the sites that you see there and leave us a review. The reviews help us understand what we're doing right, what we can improve on, and they also really help potential customers determine if ClubExpress is going to be the right solution for them. So we encourage you to take just a few minutes to jot down some of your thoughts about ClubExpress and submit them. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive into our topic. So last week, we went over all of the features that your members are going to see in the new mobile app and all of the ways that they can interact with other folks in your organization, like live chat and meets and direct messaging. So we took a look at all of that from the members' perspective. And of course, while you as administrators or even coordinators are also members as administrators, you would have a few extra things to configure. We're also going to talk about how you would actually obtain the mobile app if you don't have it already. So the mobile app is an extra cost feature. It's optional. Now, to distinguish it from your website is mobile friendly and can be accessed by anybody from a phone or a tablet, and of course, your desktop. But the mobile app includes the mobile version of your website plus exclusive app-only features like live channel-based chat, meets where members can share their location with other members in their organization or in their channel and meet up with them in person. Member polls, members can create their own polls and share them with other members. Direct messaging, which we reviewed in our webinar last week, that allows your members to send each other private messages, and in-app notifications. So this is a new feature that we've rolled out with this mobile app. It's available to clubs and organizations with the app, and it allows you to push out notifications to members who have the app. And they can be notifications for anything from signing up for an event to reminding someone that you've posted a new blog entry. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to go back to our YouTube channel and watch our mobile app for members webinar that we hosted last week. But in today's session, we're going to be focusing on the admin duties of the mobile app for your organization. So what are we going to talk about today? First, we're going to talk a little bit about actually getting the app. We're going to go through that very briefly, for organizations who are curious about the app, who maybe want to see what that might cost. We're going to go through that. We're also going to talk about the setup options that you have and what you need to make sure that you've set up for your members to have a pleasant experience, and then how you're going to use app features as an administrator. So let me go ahead and switch gears here. And we are going to take a look at what it's like to actually get the app for your organization. So I'm currently on one of our demo sites, and I'm going to sign in as an administrator. And I'm going to visit the control panel. Now, you can do this on your own from the control panel in the website tab. Under the setup section, if you do not currently have the mobile app, you will see an option, mobile app setup. So when I click that option, I can see the gist of everything that I'm going to need to get this app set up for me, everything that we need from you. We need your app name. So that's the name that's going to appear under the icon when someone downloads your app. And 3 images, your logo image, your splash image, and your icon image. So on the right, there are instructions as to the sizes of those images. You want to make sure that you do pay attention to those instructions so there isn't a delay in getting your app created and deployed. If the images aren't quite the right size, we're going to need to come back to you, get new images. So just make sure that you do follow those instructions when you're submitting those images for your app. Now, underneath that is the information about the cost. Now, the mobile app is a one-time extra cost feature of $200. In addition to that, there are app costs. So you can see that there are 2 options that you have when you are signing up for the mobile app for your organization. You can offer the app for free for your members, or you can ask your members to pay per download. So if you're asking your members to pay per download, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store each keep a small chunk of that money. Some of that is remitted to ClubExpress, and some of that is remitted to you. Now, if you offer the app for free, the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store do still need to collect their cut. So you as an organization would then pay the individual download fee of 70 cents per app to cover that cost for the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So those are the 2 options that you have, and you can think about what your members might be more open to, if they're okay with paying for the app, or if you as an organization would just absorb that cost. Now, that's per person who has the app. So if you have a member who has downloaded the app on both their tablet and their iPhone, it's only counted as a one-time download, so you won't be charged twice for that. Now, once you check that box and submit that information, we get started on your app and we let you know when it's ready. So once the app is ready, you're no longer going to see mobile app setup in your control panel. Instead, what you're going to see, and I'm going to switch our demo sites here to go to a demo site that actually has the mobile app. And I'm going to navigate to the exact same spot, because once you have that mobile app, again, I'm in the website tab. And you'll see that I no longer have a link for mobile app setup. That has instead changed to mobile app manager. Now, when I select my mobile app manager, now I'm in setup mode, and I'm in the mode of getting my app set up for my members. So there are 3 main things to think about, and one of those is new for our mobile app 2.0 rollout. The first thing that you would do, and this would be maybe the most time-consuming part of the process, but depending on how many channels you'd like to create, it may not be. And that's, of course, setting up your channels. Channels are ways to collect your members together to give them a chance to communicate with smaller groups. Now, of course, you can create a channel with all of your members in it, but really when you're creating channels, you want to maybe think about the ways, again, that your members are going to want to reach out to others and communicate with them, whether that's based on their chapter or their interest or so on. So when I'm in my mobile app manager screen, I'm looking at my channel manager. And here we have a very familiar search panel. I can click search without entering any search criteria to find a list of all of the channels that I have created. At the top, we can hide the search panel, add a channel, run reports, and then visit some more mobile app options. And we'll come right back to that. But first, let's talk about our channels. So like I said, channels are a way to collect your members together in smaller groups or even a larger group like an all active members channel. Here we can see our channel names. These names are visible to members. So last week in our webinar, we saw that when members are looking at the list of channels that they have available to them, they see the channel name. Here's the channel type. The channel type is something that you as an administrator are going to set up and you're going to configure. And we can see a bunch of different types also with a number next to them that quickly lets you know how many members are in that channel currently. Next, whether or not that channel is an active channel or if it's been disabled. Note that you can delete channels, but if you want to keep a channel as maybe an archive, maybe you plan on resurrecting that channel at some point in the future, you can always disable it. Disabling the channel removes the channel from the member's view, so they won't be able to access it and they won't be able to continue sending messages. And then next up, we have our maintain column. Here's our trusty edit icon that allows us to reconfigure how we may have set up an initial channel. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Next, we are able to view and manage the members of the channel, and then finally delete the channel. Now, let's go ahead and edit one of our channels and take a look at how it's been configured. And then remember that anytime I'm editing an individual item that I've configured, I'm looking at basically the same options as if I had added a new channel. I'm just seeing everything already filled in for me. So let's go ahead and see flyers, and we'll go ahead and select the edit icon. Oh boy. We'll go ahead and select balloon restoration instead, and we'll go ahead and click that edit icon. And here we can see a really basic screen where we're entering in just the name of the channel, a description of the channel. That description is going to be visible to members when they're choosing a new channel or managing their channel options from their member profile. So if we'll remember that when a member goes into their member profile, they're able to edit their mobile profile, meaning their avatar, their name, and they're also able to manage their channel subscriptions. Underneath that, we have an app image. So this is also something that's new to our new mobile app. We now have small images that appear in the list of channels. So again, you probably noticed those when we were taking a look at the mobile app for members. So it just gives you a chance to maybe share an image that exemplifies the personality of the channel and helps members identify it easily. Now, at the top, we have our active status. Remember that instead of deleting a channel, you can always change the status to disable. And then underneath that, our membership in this channel is all active members. So what that means is that all active members are automatically going to be part of this channel. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to participate in the channel. It doesn't mean that they have to receive notifications for the channel. They can manage that on their own. But what they wouldn't be able to do is leave this particular channel. When channel membership is based on something automatic, like all active members, or based on an interest that a member is part of or a committee, they can't remove themselves from that channel. In the case of all active members, the only point at which they'd be removed from that channel is either if an administrator bans them from the channel or if they're no longer a member of your organization. Now let's take a look at another channel. We have our baskets channel, and it's based on interest members. So if I go ahead and select my edit option for that channel, here we can see that the status is disabled, so this isn't going to appear in our list of channels, but it was based on an interest. And once we selected that interest, we chose a specific interest from the list that we've configured on our site. Now, the way those channels would work is membership is based on who is part of that interest group. And it's the same with our committee-based channels and our subgroup-based channels. So the only way to enter or leave this particular channel would be to add the interest to your list of interest or remove the interest. Once you remove the interest, you're no longer a part of the channel. Now, do keep in mind that there is a slight delay. If you're familiar with maybe a delay in creating forums on our site, you know that there's about a 10 or 15-minute delay from changes that you might make. So keep in mind that when you're creating channels, if you have the app open and you're waiting for that channel to appear in the list, it might take something like 15 or 20 minutes for that to refresh. So give it just a little bit of time. Again, if you're not seeing that channel populate right away, it might take just a minute. Now, let's take a look at some of the other channel options that we have. So when I select Add Channel, I can see just a fresh list of my membership options here without anything else to distract us. We've talked about all active members. Member opt-in is another option that you have to give members a little bit more control over what channels they're a part of. Member opt-in allows members to choose whether or not they're a part of the channel, and they can leave at any time. Admin defined means just that. The administrator defines who's part of the channel. So that means that administrators would need to access the channel manager and add and remove members. And we can kind of see behind my screen here, there's that members icon that we were talking about earlier. We would be adding and removing members on our own as administrators. Next up, interest members, we've talked about that. If you're a member of the interest or you're participating in that interest, you're automatically a member of that channel. And the way you would remove yourself from the channel is to remove yourself from the interest. And it works the same with the following few. So committee members, member type, subgroup. If we select any one of those options, we're then choosing from the list of either committees or member types that we've created. And again, when you're a member of the committee, you're automatically a member of the channel. When you're removed from the committee, the same thing happens. And the same with member types and subgroups. Now, what these are really allowing you to do are quickly chat with other members of the committee, other members of the interest group, other members of that type. So if you are maybe an organization that has family memberships and you want all of the families to be able to talk and share ideas with each other, you might create a channel based on your family member types. Same with our subgroups. And member additional data just allows you to choose one of the additional data questions that you have created and then create an interest group based on the answer to that question. Now, with all of the channels, again, you're allowing your members to communicate in a live chat format with other people in your organization or other people within a specific group in your organization. Now, to the right of our edit icon, where we can manage all of our channels, we have our members icon. So right at the top, we have our admin defined channel. So I'll go ahead and select edit members. And here again, we have our familiar search panel. I'll just go ahead and select search without entering in any search criteria. And I also add member button on the right-hand side. And that's because, again, it's admin defined. So if I select add member, I'm selecting a member using my member selector, finding a member in my database. So I'll go ahead and search for Jenny. I'll select Jenny. And I can, from this screen, do a couple of extra things. I can make Jenny the channel moderator, meaning Jenny has the ability to see reported messages for that channel. Jenny also has the ability to manage other members in that channel. The channel status. So when you're managing additional members of the channel, you're choosing whether the channel is going to be active or hidden for them, and you can also ban them from that channel. So if you have someone who repeatedly sends messages that other members have reported, and we'll talk about reported messages in a minute, you can ban them from a channel. And you can also send chat notifications as long as the member is also receiving chat notifications. So you can push those out to the member as well and see whether or not they are receiving those notifications. Now we'll go back into our channel manager and we'll select a channel that isn't going to be defined by an administrator. Let's check out our board of directors channel, which is being defined by a committee. And we'll select our edit members once again. You'll see that we don't have an add member button on the right-hand side because, again, this is being based solely on the membership to that committee. And in our maintain column, we still have the ability to edit those member statuses. So we can change their status. We can ban anyone from this chapter. We can also make them a moderator and perform those same actions. So now that we've learned how to add and configure channels on our site, let's see what the other remaining options are for creating the mobile app and getting that set up for our members initially. So at the top, we'll select mobile app options. And at the very top, we can change our app name. And if we scroll down, we'll come back to our Meets options in a minute. We can also change the logo image. Now, there were additional images that if you recall, you would have submitted when you created your mobile app. And that includes the splash screen image, so the image that appears when the app is loading, and the icon image. The icon image is, of course, the icon that would appear in your icon tray. So if you want to change either the splash or icon images after your app has already gone live, that does require rebuilding the app. So keep in mind that once the app is built, you can change your logo image and you can change the app name. However, you won't be able to change those splash or icon images without paying to rebuild the app. So keep that in mind. And we'll scroll back up just a smidge and talk about our Meets, time span, and radius choices. So we talked about Meets last week a bit when we were looking at the mobile app for members. Meets allows members to share their location with other members in your organization once they've chosen a channel, and they can meet up with other folks. So you choose, as an admin, the time spans that are available for the member to display their location. So we have allowed members to display their location for up to 8 hours. And the radius choices, how far out are members displaying their location? So we've allowed up to 10 miles. So that's a pretty tight radius. If you happen to live in a more rural area, you might want to expand that to maybe 20 or 50 miles. So you might notice that there aren't a lot of options to configure for the mobile app, because keep in mind that your mobile app is really your website, which has already been configured with a handful of extra options. So you've already taken a look at creating those channels. So you've covered live chat. You've adjusted your Meets time span and radius choices. So you've covered our Meets option as well. Now, the newest feature that members would have access to with the mobile app would be direct messaging. And if you're already familiar, you know that as an admin, you don't have the ability to access those direct messages. Those are private. And you also know that the direct messaging component is only available to members who have downloaded and successfully signed into the app. But as an admin, you do still need to activate the feature for it to be a part of your mobile app. Now, it is included in the mobile app. None of the features that we're talking about are extra on top of the app itself. They're all included. But if for some reason you don't want to enable direct messaging for your members, you don't have to. But if you do, under the People tab, in the Configure option, and we did go over this last week, if you select Configure, you will see that direct messaging is one of the options. Now, we've enabled this on our demo site already, but if you haven't enabled it, you'll know because when you open up your mobile app, you might be missing the messages icon at the very bottom. And again, we pointed this out in last week's webinar. So if you're not seeing the messages icon in the mobile app, it's because it's not been activated on your site. So when you select direct messaging, you'll find it in the disabled modules section for the People tab. You go ahead and select that and change the status to active. Now, remember, there isn't anything for you to configure with the module. So all you would need to do is activate it. I'll go ahead and close out of this since I didn't make any changes. And you're also probably noticing that we're not seeing direct messaging anywhere in the control panel. But if we switch to view mode in our website modules, there's our direct messaging option. So we can confirm that it is available and that folks can access it. And then, of course, a few minutes later, when you open up your mobile app, you'll be able to see that direct messaging option. And we also mentioned last week and again this week that in order to use direct messaging, your members need to have downloaded the mobile app and successfully signed in order to be able to send those messages. Now, once they've initiated use of direct messaging on the mobile app, they'll be able to access direct messaging from their member profile. And if I hover over Martin's profile widget, I can see my messages and notifications. I can navigate to my direct messages and I can send them the same way that I would from my phone. But again, that initial setup has to happen on the member's mobile app. So we highly encourage you to contact your members, especially if you are intending to use that direct messaging feature or you want your members to use it more. Let them know that that's available and that they have to download the app in order to use it. So we've talked about now getting the mobile app. We've also talked about setting up the app, creating those channels, configuring those options, and enabling direct messaging. So now let's talk about using app features. And for that, I'm going to pop back into my website tab, and I'll go back into my mobile app manager. And at the very top of my channel manager, you probably noticed that I have reported chat messages to view. Now, remember that members can report chat messages and they go straight to administrators. Direct messages that are reported are different. They do not get reported to an administrator. The reported direct messages are saved to the member's device, and they, of course, are able to screenshot those and send those to you if they're problematic, and they can always block members as well. But with reported chat messages, members aren't able to block other people in your live channel-based chat. You can ban members, but their way to let you know that something might be a problem would be reporting a chat message. And if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, we encourage you to watch our webinar and tutorial mobile app for members to see how members would report messages. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. This is actually a link, and that's going to take me to my reported messages screen. Now, hopefully, you don't have to use the search panel to find all of your reported messages. Hopefully, there aren't too many, but you have a search panel up at the top where you can select a channel that you want to filter reported messages by, who reported them, who they were posted by, and some additional options like message status and then the date range. Now, on the left-hand side of our search results panel, we can see who the author of the message was, who posted it, and then who reported it, along with the channel, the message, and comments. So the comments are next to the person who reported the message. On the right-hand side, this is where your work comes in as an admin. If I select the edit icon, I have three options. I can leave the message as reported and maybe just not deal with it right now, and I can come back to it. I can edit the message. So you'll notice that when I changed my selection, I now have the option to type into this text box, and I can continue typing a message. I can change the message. Maybe someone accidentally put some colorful language that they didn't realize was in a message, and you want to maybe just make a couple changes and put that back up. Maybe you don't allow folks to share personal business links through chat, and you want to remove the link and then repost the message. And the last option would be hidden except report. When you select this option, what that does is it leaves the message out of the chat, accepting the report, removes it completely, and it's as if it never existed. Now, of course, if you have someone who is consistently posting messages that are reported and removed, that might be the time to consider banning that person from posting in your channels. So we've talked about now managing our reported messages. So another option that you would have as an administrator in the mobile app is marking attendance on the go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch gears here and go back to my slideshow. So because we're only showing a quick couple of screenshots, I'm not going to bring up my phone for this, but I want to talk about how you would take attendance in the app. So as an administrator, when you visit your event calendar in your app, at the very top of your screen, in that first screenshot on the left, you're going to see an attendance option. So when you tap that attendance option, you go to a new screen in the app, your attendance select event. You choose from your category to narrow down your events, choose a start or an end date to filter the list, and you can see a list of events that match that category. So I'm looking to take attendance for a committee meeting that we had about a week ago. I can see that there are 4 registrants for that last committee meeting. I'll click the arrow and I'm on my attendance check-in screen. And there are 2 ways that you can mark attendance. If you have a list of registrants, you can mark users as having attended, or you can look for members. If you have someone who showed up to the meeting but didn't register in advance, you can look them up and mark them as registered and having attended at the same time. You also have the ability to use your phone's camera to scan membership codes. So if you are interested in scanning membership codes, that is something that comes with the use of our virtual membership cards. If you want more information about virtual membership cards, we encourage you to visit our YouTube channel and search for that term. You can find out a lot more about membership cards and everything else they can do. But again, from the mobile app, you have the ability to scan in attendance quickly and take attendance right from your phone for meetings, events, or anything that you might be hosting. So we'll go right back to our site and we'll talk about just a couple of other things here. So we've talked about our marking attendance in the app. And now what I want to do is talk about our in-app notifications. But when I am, and let me get back into my screen here. So when we go into our control panel, and again, this is for organizations that have the mobile app, in the communications tab, you'll see a new option in admin functions called in-app notifications. So when I select in-app notifications, I see my familiar search panel with a handful of buttons at the very top. I'll go ahead and click search to see a list of some of the notifications that I've sent out. Let's talk about our search feature here and what we're seeing. It might look very familiar to you if you've used our blast emailing feature. Even if you've used text messaging, you're going to have a really easy time with in-app notifications. They use a lot of the same functions. So on the left-hand side, we have statuses of notifications that have been sent or drafted. If you are scheduling a notification for delivery, you'll see when it's been scheduled for. The title of the notification. So unlike text messages where the title isn't seen by the members receiving the message, the title of the notification is seen by members receiving the message. And in last week's webinar, we saw an example of some of those notifications. So the title of the message appears at the very top of the notification in bold letters usually, followed by the body of the notification. Who sent it, who the notification was to, the category, you are still able to categorize your messages, and then some editing and reporting options. So let's scroll up and click Add Notification and see what this looks like. And again, if you're familiar with text messaging, you're seeing that this screen looks strikingly similar. It even looks pretty similar to building an email. At the very top, we can edit our distribution list, and we can choose from a saved distribution list. And you're probably wondering where all of those lists come from. Emailing, text messaging, and in-app notifications all share the same distribution lists. So when you create a distribution list and save it in emailing, you have access to that distribution list in all of the other features that I mentioned. And you can also, of course, create a new distribution list using the same options that you would in blast emailing, choosing from one of the many categories that we have that are available and adding them or excluding them to create your perfect list. Now, once we have our distribution list defined, we would enter in that title. We talked about the title being visible to the members, and you'll categorize your notification. Categories like our distribution list are also going to be shared with emailing and text messaging. So keep that in mind that when you're creating those categories, you are going to be able to use them across your communications tools. Next up, when do we want to send it? You can send that notification now, and I'm using air quotes for now, or on a specific date and time. And if we choose a specific on this date, we get to choose that date and time. Now means that your message is going to, or your notification is going to be queued for delivery, and it'll be sent in roughly 10 minutes. Underneath that, you have the ability to add a link. So the notification itself, tapping on it will take the member to your mobile app. If you include a link in the message, tapping the message won't take them to that link. It'll take them to your app. And when they open up the notification in the app, it'll take them to wherever they're designed to go with that link, whether it's going to be a custom page or a blog post that you've created. And you'll also notice that our link builder is a little bit pared down for the use of notifications. Even for text messaging, you may have noticed that. So you are limited as to the items that you can place inside a notification. Excuse me. So if you're sharing something like directing users to your homepage or a specific volunteering opportunity that you've added to your website, use that in your notifications and your members will get taken right to that page. And then finally, the message text. You have up to 300 characters to include in your notification. Maybe send yourself a test to see what that's going to look like if you do actually create a notification that's about 300 characters. You might want to stick to maybe just a sentence or two very short sentences. We've all received notifications on our phones, so we know how they can get truncated. So definitely use this and send yourself a test every so often to make sure that it's going to display correctly and get the message across. Now, once you've configured your message, you have the opportunity to either save it as a draft or say that it's ready for delivery either now or at the time that you've scheduled, or you can cancel without saving any of your changes. Now, in the maintain column, we have a handful of options. Of course, we have our trusty edit option. Now, just like emailing and text messaging, once you've sent that item, the only thing that you're able to edit is to change the category that you've defined it as. For a draft, however, you'd have the ability to continue editing that notification. Now, one thing that you'll see at the very top, once you add a distribution list, very similar to emailing, is a sort of preview of how many notifications are going to be sent. So remember that in order for a member to receive the notification, they're going to need to have the app downloaded to their device. They will have to have signed in successfully and enabled notifications. So you may have members who don't like to receive notifications on their phone a lot of times. So they may have them turned off. So keep in mind that that's something that you could see, members not wanting to receive those notifications. And then, of course, we have the ability to view some quick reporting numbers and results of our notifications, how many sent and how many did not get sent. We can also copy notifications using our clipboard icon. So of course, the copy feature works just like all of the other copy features that you would have seen when you're copying a blast email or a text message. You'll copy the content. So if you're sending a repeated message, maybe you send out a birthday notification every month and you just change the dates that you're sending it. Next up, we can view a preview of the notification. And when you're looking at the notification, remember that the link's not going to display. So the link is only going to work in the app. You won't see a link in your preview. You'll just see what the link is for. And then finally, you have the ability to archive notifications and you can delete drafts if you have not sent them. But once you've sent it, the only option to remove this is to archive the notification. And by default, your search does not include archive notifications, so it'll clean up your search results just a little bit. Now, at the top of the screen, we have some options to configure our in-app notifications. So we are configuring categories, distribution lists, and options. Categories and distribution lists, those are going to function the exact same way that they would for blast emailing and text messaging. So when you're adding those categories, again, they're going to be added to all of those features. But keep in mind that you can only remove the category or manage the category from the feature in which you created it. So if you created a category within blast emailing, you can only edit that category from blast emailing, but you can access that category from any of the other communication tools. And the same with distribution lists. You're able to create distribution lists that you can access across all of the features. And again, it works the same way as blast emailing. So we highly encourage you to watch some of those configuration videos as well if you're not familiar with that setup. And last, we have notification options. So right now, there's just one option to configure, and it's whether or not you're allowing your event coordinators to send notifications. So if we pop into our events calendar and we select one of our events, we'll choose our safety committee meeting, or excuse me, we'll choose our lunch get together, and we show our monthly option, or show our admin options. We can see, in addition to all of the buttons that we're used to seeing, here's our text messaging button if you are using text messaging. And right next to that, we have app notifications. And just like text messaging and emailing, it's going to function the exact same way, just within the event itself. That means that you have access to all of those extra really cool distribution lists, like anyone who registered for the event but hasn't paid for it, anyone who registered for a specific activity for an event. So remember, all of these conferences and conventions that you might have, if you want to really ramp up what you're able to offer your members, think about the ability to send members who have registered for a specific session or activity notifications when those are starting. Remember that you can create those and have them delivered at a specific time. So you could sit down one day, create all of your in-app notifications that are going to be sent out at specific times, post date them, and you're all done. And it seems like you're really on the ball and you're giving your members a little bit more of an elevated experience. Now, one question that came up in last week's webinar that was a great one, and so I want to take a little bit of time to talk about it, is there was a question, we offer a lot of different communication tools, and what's the difference between all of them? So we wanted to highlight text messaging and in-app notifications and to kind of talk about the differences between them. So the fees for text messaging, there's a separate fee for text messaging. It's a monthly fee for the phone number and a fee per delivered message. And you can find more information about the fees that are included on your website in text messaging. So if you haven't activated text messaging yet, going to the option in your control panel in the communications tab will give you some more information. And as of the time of this webinar, and these fees can go up in the future, but as of the time of this webinar, it's $2 per month for the toll-free number that you use, plus a small fee, I believe, again, at the time of this webinar, I believe it's 2 cents per message in the United States per delivered message. Now, the fee for in-app notifications, that's included with your one-time mobile app setup fee. You aren't being charged every time you send out a notification. And who can you send them to? So with text messaging, you can message members and non-members who have put their mobile number in their member profile, or when they signed up as a non-member, maybe for a newsletter or an event, they allowed text message notifications. So you can send them to both members and non-members, but you have to have their mobile number and they have to have agreed to receive text messages from you. In-app notifications, on the other hand, are sent to members only who are signed into the app and have enabled notifications. So a little bit of a difference as to who you can reach with those two types of communications. And what can you send? With text messaging, you are either sending a single message of 139 characters or a double message of 285 characters. So if you recall, maybe it hasn't happened in a while, but a lot of times when messages are longer, you might get a 1 of 2 message and 2 of 2. So that's kind of what we're talking about with text messaging, and it can include links. With in-app notifications, it's up to 300 characters. It's one single notification, and it also can include links. And for both of them, you can have immediate delivery and scheduled delivery. So there are differences in, the people that you'd be able to communicate with, and maybe also the fees for your organization. But you would be able to communicate effectively using both of them. So it was a great question from last week's session, and I wanted to make sure that we took some time to talk about it. Now, of course, you can use all of those tools together. You might opt for text messaging for some types of communications and in-app notifications for other very member-specific communications. So keep in mind there are different ways that you can use all of these features. And I want to go right back into our website here and talk just a couple more minutes about some things to keep in mind for in-app notifications. So with our in-app notifications, we talked about adding notifications, configuring our options, and now let's talk about our bad device list. So if you are familiar at all with blast emailing, you know that we have a list of bad emails. Our bad device list is relatively similar. So when we're looking at our bad device list, it's showing us the list of devices that are not receiving notifications that you're sending. So at the very top here, we can exclude expired members that are maybe on the list and not receiving them and clear temporary failures. Now, really, when a member's not receiving notifications, it's likely because they never enabled them or there was a problem with what's called a token or a key that would be given to that member's device. So what we recommend if you are seeing, let's say Colleen, is always appearing on this list, we would recommend that you ask the member to uninstall the app, reinstall it, and carefully sign in and enable notifications when they open up that app. And then you'd be able to clear them from the list. So if we select this fix option, we can reactivate that once Colleen has called us up and said, hey, I downloaded the app again and I logged in and enabled notifications. We can go ahead and reactivate, save that. Colleen gets removed from this list. And next time you send out a notification, hopefully Colleen does not appear back in this list. Now, another option that we talked about last week, and I'll just quickly review it, is your mobile app menu. Now, again, if you have opened up the mobile app, you notice that in addition to the icon tray at the bottom of the app and your full website menu, you can configure a sort of quick access mobile menu. Now, I'll scroll down past my website's menu and submenu options to my mobile app menu. And with my mobile app menu, I'm editing the app menu and changing the links, and I'm choosing from items that are already on my site. What I'm doing is just creating, again, that quick access menu. So, of course, we want to have meets and chat available on that quick access menu. We also like to give our members the option to create polls. So we've added polls there as well, and a couple of other options. Now, if I cancel out of that, once I've made those changes, again, I'm adding things to my menu the same way that I would add them to any other menu. I can also choose a custom icon to go with that option as well to further help call my members' attention to it. So when I select the edit option for any link that I add, I can choose a new icon from the icons that we've provided. And like we mentioned last week, again, there are a couple of extra things to keep mobile app. And we've already talked about being able to send direct messages from the member or from the full desktop website once you've initiated that contact or that direct message on your mobile app. But there are a couple of other features that you can make available on your desktop site as well. And that would be meets and chat. So if we switch to view mode in our, I believe it's our communications tab, we can see that we have meets and chat available, but remember with direct messaging, we also had to switch to view mode as well. Again, that's because there isn't anything to configure in those specific options. There isn't an admin side. Everything that you configured for meets and your channel-based chat happened in your mobile app manager screen, where you were managing those options for both of those features. So what you would need to do is add those features to your main menu so that your members would be able to access them. And you can, of course, add them to your members only menu and make sure that they're activated on your site. Then once your members are logged in, they'll be able to visit each one of those options. So I can visit chat as a member and I can communicate the same way that I would on my phone as well. Right. So that covers everything that we wanted to talk about for the admin side of your new mobile app. Devin, how are we doing on questions?
We're doing well. I'll go ahead and clarify one thing. So there's a lot of confusion about whether the text messaging module was included and free as a part of the mobile app. It works well in tandem, but the text messaging module is still a completely separate module from the mobile app. So you are both able to text message even if you don't have the app. But that also means that the charges associated with text messaging are also separate from the app. So there's no discounted or different rates. Text messaging is text messaging, and the mobile app is the mobile app. Those two things don't cross or combo in any way. Alternatively, you still have the in-app notifications, which are included. Those are also separate from text messaging. Those will go to everyone that has the app installed on their phone. So if you wanted to send a message to people that have the app, you could use in-app notifications instead of text messaging, and there would be no fees. But that does require that your members are using the app and have it installed in order to get those in-app notifications. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Text messaging can usually be a bit more reliable to get that message out to everyone, but because we have to go through a third party and send those text messages through a specific phone number, there are charges associated with that. So those are two kind of separate ways of sending messages to members. They are both reliant on members having a cell phone, which is why we bring it up, because it's just two different options for communications. There were a lot of questions about the difference between direct messaging and the chat function and the in-app notifications. All three of those are also those are all tied into the app, but they are three different communication methods. So the kind of fundamental differences are that in-app notifications are for administrators to send messages to members that have the app. The chat function is for members of the club that are in a specific channel or just in the all members channel to kind of talk to each other. I would say think of the chat function as like a more fast paced forum. It's a place for people to go hop in and talk to people with similar interests. That would be the chat function where you can kind of get into a group text. Yeah, think of it as kind of like a group text with everyone who is of that same channel. So if you have a channel that's like, hey, we like to knit and this is our knitting channel, then that's where people can go and talk about the different knitting needles they like, whatever they feel like talking about, similar to forums. And then direct messaging is another separate form of communication, but that is directly for members to talk directly to another member of their choice. So it's not a public communication like the chat is. It is a private message, like I would say almost like think of like the chat function as like something a little bit more public, like posting on Facebook, but just a quick chat message. Whereas direct messaging is only between you and the people that you message, where you have the option to send a message to just one person or two or three people if you want to have a private chat. So again, direct messaging is the private option. The public will not see, other members won't see it. It's between specifically only you and that person. Let's see. Another question. So, something from way back at the beginning, if you do make changes to your channels, so if you add a channel or remove a channel or rename a channel, um, I would say as far as the time frame of that update, give that about 10 to 15 minutes is the click over time for our server, I believe. So once you create your channels, close the app, give it 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then open the app and everything should be updated. Um, uh, that's a question I already answered about text messaging. Let's see. Um, when you have so you'll notice if you have the digital membership card, the virtual membership card, there's an option for you to allow people to download that virtual membership card in the app. I can't remember if our membership card is set up on the app or not. I think I remember trying it on our demo app and it may or may not work, but there is a button to download the card. It is still similar to downloading the card as though you're on the desktop or on the mobile version of the website. It will just download an image of it to your phone that you can then share and show people. It doesn't necessarily store it in the app. It does just download the image to like your photo library in your phone. Is there an integration between forums and apps? Not. Yes, you can absolutely interact with the forums on the app. It's really no different than using the app, say, on the mobile site or on the desktop site. Pretty much every single module on ClubExpress, it may not have an app specific version, but they're all accessible on the app because the app is going to use usually the same tools that the mobile version of the website will use, just with a few extra bells and whistles. but I would say 90 to 95% of our modules will work the same way in the app as they do on the mobile site. So you can definitely interact with the forums on your mobile app just like you would on the mobile website. Someone asked, is the digital membership card an extra cost? Yes. So there is an optional add-on for your club to have virtual membership cards, and those are between 400 and 600. So we'll either $400 or $600 at the moment, and that's just for the initial setup. The $400 option is just a app with their, or not an app. It's a card with their things like their expiration date, their membership number. It can even have a barcode that people can like scan to get access to their member number. Um, and then the $600 option includes their profile picture. So if your members have profile pictures attached to it, you can choose the $600 option, and we will embed the member's photo that they put on the website into that membership card. And again, that is so $400 for the version without the membership photo. If we are going to embed the member's photo into the card, it is a $600 initial one-time setup.
And there are a
So
lot of other items that you can add to your virtual membership cards as well. So we have videos on that. We also have some information on that in our help system. If you just search membership cards, we have a chart of all of the different fields that you can add to your membership card as well, if you're interested in that.
And then one thing I'll circle back to, we got a handful of questions about like what are channels, what are they used for? So when you click into a channel, most times it'll just drop you back on whatever page you were on, usually just the home page when you're in the mobile app. And that may initially be confusing because it's not going to take you to like a channel homepage or anything like that. Kind of like some of our subgroups do, where they have like subgroup homepages if you're a chaptered organization. Channels, the easiest way for me to describe channels, in my opinion at least, is they are similar to interest groups. They are categorizing your members one way or another into groups of people, and you can even, I believe, you can make channels that are based. Yeah, you can make channels based on certain interest groups. So you could tie those two modules together pretty much one to one, and it's just a way for you to categorize your members in organizations that group them into groups that may share similar interests. So that's why I relate it to the interest module. So things like, again, I mentioned knitting, but you can do like bicycling or whatever sub interest your group has. If you're like a parents group and some parents have their kids that participate in ballet, you could have a ballet moms group, and that just gives them access to primarily use the chat function to talk to other parents who share those same interests. You can get really creative with this. You can make multiple channels of similar groups. So you can have, ballet group 1, ballet group 2. If you're in using mom groups again, like our New York mothers group is fairly large, and so they may have different suburbs. This suburb, Brooklyn ballet moms. You can get really specific with it. There are other tie-ins for channels other than the chat function, so you can make events that are specific to certain channels. You can create forums that are limited to certain channels. There are channel integrations with a lot of our modules. And effectively, you're doing that same thing, saying, hey, I'm having an event, but I'm only inviting, the channel members instead of inviting the entire club. And again, that's just the same usage of this is something that only people of this particular interest would be interested in. So just very similar to the interest module, but the big separation is that channels specifically interact with the mobile app, not necessarily the same way that the interest module interacts with the desktop app. Sam, do you have anything to add about the use cases of channels?
I do not. I think that the way that you describe them as a faster paced forum is a really great way to describe it. It's sometimes it's helpful for me to visualize it physically. So if you think of your mobile app like a party, you might have a general space where everyone can gather, and then you might have separate rooms which are for people who are interested in specific things only. You might have rooms that are open to everyone to pop in and out of, and that would be your member opt-in channels where I can decide if I want to be a part of the conversation about ballet in Brooklyn, or I can decide if I want to be a part of the conversation about bicycle safety laws in Ohio. So these are all ways to really categorize your members and sort of group them together based on their interest exactly, and based on ways that or reasons they might want to talk with other members. So it gives you ways to allow your members to connect with each other for things that may not necessarily be intrinsic to your organization. So if you are an organization that's, a professional organization, that doesn't mean that you can't have maybe a channel for people who like to travel a lot. So like Devin said, there are a lot of options that you have available to you.
Yeah, we did get one more question just to answer before we wrap up. Someone asked, did the question about forum integration get answered? Yes. So we do have forum capabilities in the mobile app. So you can still interact with the forum on the mobile app. There's no limitation there. And I think that's just about all the questions that we had in our chat. And we are also
Great.
at the hour.
We are. If there was virtual confetti, I'd throw it. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate you popping in. A recording of this webinar will be on our YouTube channel before the end of the week. And be sure to watch our webinar that we hosted last week, Mobile App for Members. It is a lot of content, so we did split it up into 2 separate weeks. So that'll help fill in some of the gaps of what is this looking like from a member's perspective when I make these changes. So be sure to take a look at that webinar. We also have updated mobile app tutorials on our website as well. So if sitting through the hour webinar isn't quite your cup of tea, we do have much shorter tutorials. They're under 15 minutes each. So you can get all of that done in less than 30 minutes. So be sure to visit our YouTube channel and take a look at some of those videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next webinar. Bye, everyone.